you can sit whatever way you want. The worst people you'll ever meet with the most like stiff shoulders and necks and stuff are the ones that are trying to walk around holding their shoulders back all day and trying to be stiff and tense and make sure that they're not rounding their back.
And there's so much tension there all the time, and they go to flex their spine a little bit, and they're like, oh, it feels terrible, I'm so stiff and so tight. I'm like, no way. It's because you're always in that, like,
they move differently to try and offset something, and that's the bigger problem.
It's time to stretch and stretch.
Welcome to You Can Fix You, giving you mobility tips to build movement freedom and train with confidence. Episode 11.
ooh,
Does posture matter? Hello, JP.
you okay there, Tom?
Well, I got some feedback from Jenni,
Oh,
and Jenni says that I talk too fast.
oh no.
So I'm trying to talk slower.
This could take a while.
I'm already bored, so enough of that. So yes, today, does posture matter? We're going to go through what is good posture, what should you focus on, and when should you try and fix something, and tips for the day. So number one, JP, what is good posture?
Well, that's a good question, because traditionally it's the classic sort of army position where you're sitting straight back, head pushed back, shoulders set, very stiff, very rigid. But we don't really kind of vibe with that.
No, it's not that anatomical like image.
Yeah.
Of, you know, the imagine with the palms turned out and everything stand up, everything's stacked and aligned and stuff. You're not meant to be in any one position forever. So it just doesn't make any sense. And everyone's posture can be slightly different based on the things that they train. So you'll see different people that do different sports, for example, maybe have different postures. So the ones that I like are most obvious would be like fighters, people that do MMA and stuff. Their shoulders are going to be rounded more forward because of their guard posture and stuff. And that's just what happens all the time. And it's totally fine. So like, have you got any examples of like people you would notice that have a bit of a, like you'd assume, oh, your X, Y, and Z's out of alignment, but it's just because of the sport they do. And it helps them with their sport.
Totally. I mean, you look at some extreme examples. So you got weightlifters, and you look at them from the side profile, and you're like, wait, there's Olympic weightlifters, and they've got like rounded lower back. It's almost like it's pushing out the wrong way, and their upper back's all kind of like rounded in, but really strong and wide. And you're like, that shape doesn't make sense. But then you look at what they do; it's a lot of extension, and that's the way they've kind of built up that position. And actually, if you stripped away the muscle, what's underneath is probably just great. Everything's in a good position. All the joints are able to move and rotate, so they're fine. Yeah,
it doesn't really matter. And it's the hyperlordosis that people would assume that they have, like their anterior pelvic tilt that they think they have.
Yeah,
it helps them keep their chest more upright in their squat, which helps them then when they're doing the snatch or the clean and things like that to be more upright in their squat, which puts less pressure on their spine. So it's an adaptation to help them to do something better. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, and it's not really the cause of pain a lot of times either. So a lot of people assume that because they maybe have a shoulder sitting lower than the other, or a bit of a rounded back, or their shoulders forward, or anterior pelvic tilt, any of that kind of stuff, that it's the reason for all their pain. And it's usually not. It's usually that they'll have a problem with some kind of joint function, and addressing that will make them feel okay.
Yeah. And I think looking at sports, you've got that very sort of sport-specific adaptation that you get. You also, if you don't do sport, get sort of adaptations as to how you spend the most time, or where you're putting in the most work. So like text neck is kind of a good example of posture as well. I have very rounded shoulders. I did years of like protraction position, and they just sit a little bit further forward. I do a lot of work to kind of balance that out. But those things like text neck, where you kind of get a hump on your back, is that kind of in the same conversation? Is that different? What are we looking at there?
For posture overall? It's so if something's starting to arise that you're having problems, then maybe we'll want to have to actually address something. But the main thing is, day to day, you want to be able to actually sit at rest. You want to be able to get into good alignment if you are training. So it's as long as you have the ability to express full range of motion that you need. So even if when you're relaxing, your head does like to poke out forward, it's as long as you can actually tuck your chin back and hold yourself into a good position. Can you do that? great. If you were to try and tuck your chin back and you were still to have like a hump at the back of your neck, then it's like, oh, right, okay, we really need to start getting you doing specific stretches every day to try and get rid of that, because we don't want compression over time. So it's just something that you want to think about. If you're having problems and you're noticing these kind of structural deviations and there's a correlation with an issue and you can't actually get into a range of motion, then you want to actually start to address things. So it's like, what should you focus on instead? What should you focus on instead is actually being able to express full range of motion with your joints. So as long as you can move your neck fully in all the directions it can move in, your shoulders, your hips, your knees, and your ankles, all that there jazz, you'll be okay. You can sit whatever way you want. And that's really important to take on board, because
there's lots of freedom with that.
Yeah, the worst people you'll ever meet with the most like stiff shoulders and necks and stuff are the ones that are trying to walk around holding their shoulders back all day and trying to be stiff and tense and make sure that they're not rounding their back. It's like,
and there's so much tension there all the time, and they go to flex their spine a little bit, and they're like, oh, it feels terrible, I'm so stiff and so tight. I'm like, no way. It's because you're always in that like tight position. It's important for you to know how to actually sit and relax. Like, we're sitting up more straight than usual because just the word posture makes you go, oh, and sit up more straight. But you should actually just be able to sit in a chair and just completely chill your beans and be able to fully relax. So it's the people that have the biggest concerns around posture that will actually feel the worst, because they move differently to try and offset something. And that's the bigger problem. You need to move well when you're moving and then chill out when you're actually chilling out. And it's not to confuse. Sometimes when people hear that sort of statement of you can sit whatever way you want, they think, oh, I'm going to try to sit in the worst position possible because Tom said I could. And like, that's not what he said. Right? There's extremes. And somewhere in the middle is probably the sweet spot. So you can express full extension. You can express full flexion, but you're probably going to rest somewhere naturally in the middle. Yeah. And that's kind of what we're saying is like, you don't need to overthink it. You don't need to force yourself to sit badly. You don't need to force yourself to sit perfectly, whatever that is. Just let your body sit the way it wants to. And then with the rest of your like training and a few little tips that we'll share later on, that's where we can really counteract any negative effect that you might be getting that you don't need to worry about. Yeah,
there's no such thing as a bad position. So the way I like to sit on my sofa, for example, I like to sit because my TV's like slightly diagonal off from the sofa. So I'll sit with my left hip externally rotated, my right leg just completely straight. I'll have my right arm up on the armrest, and I'll usually be hugging a pillow with my left arm. So that's fine if I also do mobility and do external rotation on my right hip as well, and make sure I'm moving my shoulders and my upper back and stuff when I'm training, when I'm doing mobility work. I can sit like that. I can sit like that and watch a Lord of the Rings marathon if I want. Not that I would. I didn't actually like Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry.
Take it back, Tom.
I didn't enjoy it.
Back. Greatest movie trilogy of all time.
I do have to say though, I never used to like Harry Potter, but now watching Harry Potter with my daughter, I love it. I think it's brilliant because she really enjoys it. So I'm more watching it through her eyes, and she, like how much she's enjoying it. So but I can sit for a long period of time on my sofa in that way because I move as well. But if I never trained, or if I only ever did, say, strength training, for example. So I only did deadlifts, I only did squats, and I never, I was like 10 years ago, like I was, I don't need to stretch. I'm fine. Everything feels great. So if I was always doing that all the time and then trying to strength train and having those bilateral movements whenever one of my hips was more flexible than the other, just through habits, which is just what happens over time, then you could start to have problems on one side of your body and stuff like that. So that's why it's just so important to move all your joints, not just one or two of them, and look for little tightnesses that you may have or those habits that you may have. So if you have a job, dentists are always a really good example because they'll be sitting with one leg out straight working the pedal, and they'll usually be hunched over someone's mouth working for 5 hours a day, for example. So they're sitting in that one position, and a lot of dentists that I've worked with, they've always had like one overly flexible hamstring compared to the other one, and they've always got bad back pain, and it's just because of those hours sitting in that position. So you only have to add in a couple of things and it completely offsets it.
Totally. And it's that when you are doing your movement or your training or whatever, it's looking for those differences side to side and not freaking out about it, just going, oh, that's different. And then your brain will just start doing some calculations, and it'll go, oh, it's probably because I sit like this all the time. And that's okay. So then you just spend a little bit more time maybe on one side, or you start with one side. We'll maybe get into those sort of tips later on. But it's the main thing is you don't need to freak out about this stuff. it's like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Your body has survived up until now. It will keep surviving.
Yeah. So this is the big thing. So kind of point number 3 is like, when should you try and fix something?
Yeah.
So if you are noticing that you're having problems with an area and you're trying to work on your full joint function and there's just like a big difference side to side,
Sure.
there's something you cannot do.
So for example, like the deep lunge rotation is a good one.
Yeah.
Like one side, you're able to get your elbow right down to the floor and you're like, piece of cake.
Yeah.
Other piece of cake. Other side, you're like halfway down your shin. That's a pretty big difference.
Yeah. So if it was only a little bit, and say you warmed up
Yeah.
and you got both elbows down to the floor,
There
and
you
you're
go.
like, hey, great. But if every time you're trying to do that, there's this big gap.
It's blockage.
Yeah, and the same kind of goes for like with the upper body. If you use like a pressing example,
Sure.
say you can press a heavy dumbbell on one side,
Oh,
say like
yeah.
20 kg dumbbell on one side, you can press that. You can do it for like 5 reps, easy peasy.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you're like 15 kilos and things are getting wobbly after 2 reps. You just notice there's a big difference there. So
Totally.
you'll always have like one side slightly stronger than the other,
Sure.
and that's totally fine. But as long as there's only a small gap,
Yeah.
and you know, you're able to close that gap a little bit as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
So just like add a few reps on one side, or
Mhm.
don't let the other side tickety boo take off, kind of
Exactly,
thing.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
don't be like just playing completely into your strengths. Try and get the weaker side to catch up, because then, especially when it comes to like the barbell or just general training and stuff,
Yeah.
you don't want to be letting that go on for too long, because
Exactly,
then
yeah.
you end up with the, all of a sudden,
Totally.
oh,
Just-
oh no, what
There's
happened?
no reason for this at
No
all.
reason. Yeah.
And that it can get super tricky, because a lot of the times, if you are like going to a fitness class, they'll be using barbells instead of dumbbells, and so you might not notice
Mhm.
that one arm is doing the majority of the work
Mhm.
until you maybe see a photo or a video back of yourself and you look all skew-if. That's a good indicator. It's like, oh, if I look a little bit funny, let's maybe try some dumbbells and let's see what's actually going on here. They can reveal so much more into that sort of joint stability and strength.
It wasn't
each side.
until, so whenever I got really focused with trying to achieve a bodyweight strict press,
Oh,
and I was
oh my goodness,
training like
Oh,
crazy.
hold on. That's massive.
Yeah.
just for reference, most people get stuck at around 70% body weight for a strict press. I think that's like a general number you can achieve pretty well, and anything beyond that requires so much work.
Yeah, I did. I did get there.
You
though.
did?
I did.
Oh
actually
my
get there.
goodness.
It was when I was 86 kilos. I'm still 86 kilos now. I
Nice.
don't look how I used to look at 86 kilos anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, I did actually get to it. But
Fair play.
what always happened to me was like every couple of months or whatever, I would really badly tweak my neck on one side, and like I wouldn't be able to turn my head. I'd be like full on like, I'm Batman. I would not be able to move my neck at all. Like, it was really, really scary. Like, it'd feel a
Yeah.
crack in my neck, and I would fully think I've broken something
And
here.
it's just
you know?
super tight and like locked up. You couldn't,
Like, not even
was it
able
hard to touch or
not,
anything?
you couldn't touch it, couldn't turn my head
Oh,
or
wow.
anything. And if I like lay down at all, like I wouldn't have been able to get up again. Like, it would have been super scary to
Oh,
actually move. Like, it was
vicious
really
stuff, yeah.
intense. And like, it was just going to the physio like
How long would that
two times a
last
week.
for then?
Probably about 3 weeks it would have lasted
Oh.
for. And then the more I kind of learned about mobility and stuff, I was able to
Yeah.
get rid of it faster. And then
Sure.
luckily I haven't had any problems for years now with it. But it always used to happen to me. And I was always like, well, I want to get my barbell strict press. So it's just
Yeah.
barbell,
Yeah.
barbell.
Push through the
And yeah, pretty much push through the pain. That was exactly me. And I got so far, but I kept getting injured, so I couldn't stick to the pressing that I wanted to do to try and achieve the goal. And it wasn't until I started playing around with Turkish get-ups that I realized that I could have done probably, I don't know, like 32 kg on my right arm easily, like up and down with the Turkish get-up, and I struggled to do it 24.
Wow,
Like,
that's
it
a
was
huge
really
difference.
wobbly, and like
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you see me do the Turkish get-up on my right arm, I was like do 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 do,
Yeah.
and then the left arm with a much lighter weight, it was
Yeah.
like
Because that's like,
through each part of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
movement, so it was a huge difference in strength side
you
to side.
could look at it too. Sorry, I got a little bit analytical here. You could look at it as your 32 side was 50% stronger than your 24 side.
Yeah.
Or you could look at your 24 side was 2/3 as strong as your, depends what, I don't know what's the right way, but like that's a significant.
I just call it my left side sucked.
Yeah.
So but the funny thing was that it was my right shoulder that I injured really badly.
Right.
And I just did all the rehab stuff on my right shoulder, so I made it so much stronger
much-
compared to the left side.
So stable.
So that's one mistake to look out for. If you ever injure one joint, make sure you do the rehab
Yeah.
exercises on both sides.
Well, that happened to me as well, because I had a steroid injection when I was like 18 and did all the rehab and stuff on that bad side, and then now it's the good.
Yeah. That was me. It was my right shoulder. I rehabbed loads, and then like a few months down the road, my left shoulder started to hurt, and then it was like, what's going on? Yeah, I just have rubbish shoulders.
Did you rehab on both sides?
I know. So so the biggest ones that helped me there was the bottoms up kettlebell press. It was a really good one to test because it shows any stability things really quickly, and also making sure that my flexibility was the same on both sides.
Sorry, if you don't know what a bottoms up kettlebell press is.
Oh yes.
So you've got a kettlebell. You hold it bottoms up. So the flat bit that usually sits on the floor faces the ceiling. So it feels really wobbly, like your forearms really working, your shoulders really kind of set and engaged. And as you press, it just wants to drift and go everywhere. Yeah. So you got to really keep everything tight and strong.
Yeah. I like to call it the auto coach because if you do it wrong, it punches you in the face.
Oh,
it's
there
great.
You go. Yeah.
He was like,
I'm going to coach myself today. Bottoms up kettlebell.
Yeah, so practice your escapes before you test 1 rep max.
And if you have a watch, take your watch off.
Oh yeah. I've seen some
very expensive,
really expensive watches go down. I've seen someone break a watch once when they were doing double unders, and the guy hated double unders with a passion.
Oh, no.
Like he hated them so much. And he went, it was like, I think it was actually a new year. And he went, right, I'm going to get these double unders. Anytime they come up on the board, I'm going to do the double unders. Double unders is whenever the rope goes underneath you twice, by the way. So you do a skip, and instead of the rope going under once, you do 2 times. They're really hard to get the hang of initially, like really hard. And some people really struggle, like I did as well. Really struggled to get them the first time. So there's such a coordination movement. And this guy says, right, anytime they come up on the board, even if it's 100 of them, I'm just going to do double unders. I don't even care what else is in the workout. I'm just doing them.
20-minute workout to get 100.
It was like the 3rd day in or something like that there, and he just got this brand new watch for tracking things and stuff, and he just went woo, and he just jumped, happened, the feet landed on the rope, and shik, and you just looked, and the whole screen was just mangled, absolutely cracked to bits. He just set the rope down, and he went and got his bag, and he just walked out of the gym, and I was like, it was one of those moments, it's like, I'm not going to say anything. I know he's fine. He just needs to take a minute. So he just left. He was back in the next morning.
Did he come back? Yeah.
He did come back, but it was just one of them ones like, I'm not going to even intervene. No. This guy needs to get out of this gym right now. It was so bad.
There's nothing as devastating as something. So we're way into tangent territory here, but I just got a TV for the first time before Christmas, and like second day, forgot to put the remote back up on the shelf. We have a 6-month-old puppy that thought, that looks tasty. Destroyed the remote. What? Oops. So angry.
But you still have to love it.
Also, ate some other expensive things too.
Oh no!
Anyway, posture.
What we're doing? Wait, bottoms up press. So test your bottoms up press if you have access to kettlebells. And the Turkish get up. It's a great one to highlight. Actually see, make sure you get good at the movement first with the lightweight. Sure. When you get the confidence in it, you actually want to test it. And it's a big thing. Something I've been saying to a lot of people recently is you want to get stupid strong. Yeah. You want, if whatever the heaviest thing is that you have in your gym, you want to see, can I do a Turkish get up with that eventually? You want to just keep on trying to build on those movements because they help everything else so much. They're just so challenging through ranges of motion and stuff.
It's one of those things that social media can be really good for, is actually opening your eyes to what's possible. So Lindsay, who manages our ads on Facebook and stuff, she sent me a video of somebody doing toeability, and I was like, that is so impressive. They were doing little toes, they were doing reverse waves and all kinds of independent stuff. I kind of just got to a point and then stopped trying. So I can do that. Tick. Never going to work on it again. But actually, it kind of reinvigorated and thought, oh, that's something I should revisit and see, is there some more to gain there? Or same thing with sort of a side plank march. Instead of getting to 10 and being like, sweet, never need to work on those again. Well, let's see, can you now engage it more? Can you squeeze it more? What if you did do 20? What if you made it more challenging in other ways? There's plenty of stuff there you can
ankle weights.
Don't give him ideas, JB. Stop talking. Stop talking.
Was that the one I was doing the other day, the single arm barbell hold while doing the kettlebell clean at the same time? It was so much fun.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So enjoy, get stupid strong. You want to get there. You don't just want to get to a comfortable level. You want to be stronger than you need to be, and it just makes everything feel a lot better.
And so we were kind of looking at, it's an autocorrect teacher. It's also good to have things in balance. So as I was saying earlier, when I was rowing, it was all pulling bias, massive pulling bias, to the point where I could do like 15 push-ups and that was it. And yet I could run, 5:30 mile. I could pull, 70 kilo. Like that, there was just such an imbalance there. And then it's no wonder my shoulders were a bit sore. Once I started to improve that pushing and balance that strength out a bit, my shoulders were like,
yeah, totally
you're fine.
It's a big thing as well for like beginners and stuff that can't do pull-ups yet.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you've got some kind of pull-up progression so that you're still doing a vertical pull. So like that your arms are above your head and you can pull and you can push above the head. You can push in front of your body and you can pull behind your body as well. It's just having those things a little bit. So like even for me personally, like I've just always been better at pushing than actually pulling. So like my overhead stuff was always much easier than for me to develop pull-ups, but it didn't mean. So yeah, it's like I got my pull-ups to an okay level, but I still powered on with my overhead stuff and got it stupid strong essentially as well. So you don't kind of like just avoid your strengths too. It's just bring the other things up a little bit and you'll be okay.
Like if you can do a bodyweight strict press, you should be able to do a pull-up with a lot of weight around your waist.
Yeah, a wee bit.
It's a lot of Christmas cake.
It's holiday weight, okay?
So maybe if we look at some tips for day to day. If you're in that position where you're thinking, oh no, it is something, I am starting to feel side effects of what I'm doing, what are some quick wins people can maybe get to start changing their resting posture or feeling like it's not a problem anymore?
So the likes of, we'll just go through some of them. So like forward head posture. So if you're always noticing that your head's starting to creep out in the front, make sure that you start with your upper back first because your head sits on your body. So you want to make sure that you're able to actually express mobility through your upper back, and that's your platform first. Then whenever you're doing neck stretches, make sure you tuck your chin and give yourself a quadruple chin. Like it'll feel really, really weird to you, especially if your head is creeping out forward. Like you tucking your chin a wee bit is going to feel like you are like just looking really weird, walking around. So do your neck stretches in that position. So you're doing something with intention in a more exaggerated position to you, and then your body will start to get used to being in that position more. And then whenever you're like out for a walk, for example, just tuck your chin as you're going for the walk. Take every like couple of minutes and stuff, just take a wee note to go, oh, let's tuck the chin a wee bit. Use walking as a corrective exercise.
I really like driving for that, or being in a car, because they've all got headrests. And then you can actually you've got that physical feedback where you're pushing against it and you can feel the pressure, you feel a wee bit of strength up the back of your neck. And again, you can play around with sort of the traditional head back where the chin goes up versus this sort of chin tucked, almost trying to make a double chin as you push back. It can be really nice to get that feedback.
The great thing is that your head's with you all the time. So, any exercise you do, you can take a second. I
forgot my head today. Can't stretch. Oh, well.
With these tangents, it feels like we did forget the head today. But it's, in a side plank, when you're setting up for your deadlift, when you're setting up for any position, just take a second to check your neck. Check your neck's in a good position, but also check that it's relaxed as well, because you want to be able to learn how to keep a good position and not have tension in it too, and have tension in the right places when you're actually training. So same if you are doing a strict press, for example, make sure you just set up and take a second to go into that like ideal posture, because you're training under load, you're actually stressing your body. So yeah, aim for that good alignment in your training, and then you can chill out whenever you're not actually training. So the likes of a kyphosis. So if your upper back's really rounded, same kind of thing will apply to that. You want to make sure that you're doing loads of thoracic rotations, doing exercises that's going to help you to pull and rotate. You can do bent over rows with that. You can use resistance bands for that. Do things that's really going to pull you around to that extreme. So you're actually starting to train your body going, oh, is that what that's able to actually get to?
And that's nice because you're doing one side at a time.
Yeah.
Because if you do both, it can feel overwhelming. Yeah. But also, you've only got so much brain power to put around, so focusing on one side, you can really get deep into it.
Yeah, it's a biggest mistake I notice people make with thoracic work is they just go for a straight extension, so they just try and go straight back, and they just almost like wind themselves, like it doesn't go any further. But if you do one side at a time, you go through the extension with the rotation, so you get further each side, and you just combine that. So then do a straight extension exercise afterwards, and you'll notice such a difference. So it's a really nice hack, and also using the breath to help you to get more range as well.
It's tricking that breath as well, because if your rib cage feels like it's getting stretched, its reflex is going to be to tighten back up again. So doing one at a time, you give yourself that chance to get further.
And then anterior pelvic tilts. Make sure you're stretching.
Sticky out bum.
Insta booty. So make sure. So the problem isn't the actual tilt itself. It's more, so you want to stretch the hip flexors to help you, change the pelvis position if
Sure.
it's stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger problem is for people is if you can't express full hip extension. So if you can't bring your hips through to
Yes.
the front, you're not going to be able to engage your glutes
Mhm.
in the way that you should be able to. You're not
Yeah.
going to get the full power. Like imagine only having like 75% of your glutes. Like who wants that? You want to have all cylinders
All
going. You know?
juicy glutes.
All juicy glutes. So yeah, by opening up the hip flexors, it means you're able to express true hip extension.
Mm.
And that's probably going to be more what's actually helping you if you do get lower back symptoms
Yep.
than anything, that your glutes are actually feeling like they're able to work properly
Yep.
and you're able to actually stand up straight.
Yeah.
So yeah,
'Cause
that's the big thing with that.
If you're trying to get hip extension and your body's not getting hip extension, well, it's going to find it somewhere else. So that's where the lower back can get tightened up a bit. So yeah, getting that nice big sort of couch stretch, open up that hip, and get something to strengthen up those glutes.
Yeah.
Glute bridge. Nice wee combo there.
Yes, it is. Lengthen then strengthen.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the likes of, so some of the weirder ones, so like a scoliosis, for example, like a really mild scoliosis. We're not
Really
talking
side,
like
yeah.
a full on, like, you know, full big
Yeah.
like curve where you're completely twisted. That
like a dentist scoliosis.
like a
you're
dentist scoliosis. Yeah, no, it's like that needs medical attention. Like you don't come to us for that kind of stuff. But if you've just a small curve, one shoulder dropped a little bit lower than the other, you can stretch the side, so stretch away from the curve almost. And if you work on hanging every day, you might find you're able to improve it a little bit, or able to manage it a lot better so it doesn't get worse. Same thing goes for like a hip that sits up more on one side. If you have good lateral chain stretches, so if you stretch your sides, just like basically think about turning yourself into a banana on one side, like lean everything away from the side that's like hiked up. And you might find when you do that on each side, one side feels tighter. So if you've got that, like film yourself as you do it so you can see yourself. And then start to spend more time on that side and see, can you change it over time? Because it's like this is called the You Can Fix You podcast.
Totally. Yeah.
It's up to you to do that stuff. You can't just go to your physio once a month and expect them to massage your
push you in, right?
psoas and, you know, like stretch out your obliques for you a wee bit and give you a bit of a rub down. You've got to do this stuff like every day for a while to make that change.
And especially when you're starting, it's super common for you to get pain when you try to do this stuff.
Yeah. If your body's been a certain way for a long time, it's going to be reluctant to change.
Like that sort of, anytime you're doing the side stretches or even hanging work, you can find things get way too sore, way too fast. And it could just be a sign that actually you maybe jumped in at the deep end and actually need to step in the shallow end, make that position a bit easier. So in the hanging example, instead of the bar being right directly over your head, bring it down lower or grab something that's a wee bit lower so you can get less intense around that shoulder and then work it up over time so that you get into a better load for your position now.
You always want to be able to do duration, so you need to make it easy enough so you can do it for a longer time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can build up the harder stuff, especially like if you're brand new to stretching and mobility and stuff. You don't want to jump into just like, hey, let's hold the splits for 2 minutes, because you'll feel like you're going to tear something. You'll not enjoy it. You'll start sweating. It's awful. So it's safer to find a progression that you can wiggle in and out of gently, so you're kind of going into the range, coming back out, going back in, going back out. And if you do that for a few months, you'll find then you're able to just go into a stretch and hold it for time. Like the couch stretch for me was one, like I used to squeal trying to get into that. I wasn't able to sit up properly, and like I was leaning way over, and like I felt like my quad was going to rip in half. But the more I worked in that and just moved around and wiggled around side to side and relaxed my breathing and did it daily, I got to the point where I could sit up in it. And then now we were at that range of strength seminar there, and they were doing the split stretches, and they came to the couch stretch, and they made you sit in it for like 2 or 3 minutes each side, and I was like, that was fine. You know, you were able to do it. Yeah, it wasn't the most enjoyable, but it wasn't. You know, if I'd have tried to do that 5 years ago, I'd have tore something. You know, just, would have threw up and just lay in the fetal position with 2 snapped hip flexors. So it's just you need to start off more gentle when you do start doing this stuff, and then you'll be able to tolerate the stuff that you see on Instagram, essentially. So it's that idea of regressing a movement.
I think that's enough for now, but I'm sure we'll touch on it again in future podcasts.
Oh yes, absolutely. Kind of yeah, there's so much to think about, and it's not even just the studies and stuff that you can read about posture and not causing pain and stuff, but it's also like the belief system that you have around posture. Like if you fully are attached to that idea that your posture is causing your pain, you could accidentally be causing more pain and changing how you move because of a belief that you have. So there's so much to unpack, and like it doesn't mean that you're wrong or you don't know what you're doing or anything like that. It's just when something gets into your brain, you'll formulate what to tell your muscles to do, and your muscles will start being weird, and they'll start, you're actually fighting against your own body's compensations then. So it's not actually the posture itself. It's like what your body's trying to do to try and fix this posture that's causing other problems. So
Sure.
yeah, there's so much to unpack with this, but yeah. So let's get into. So this is not a win.
Not a win.
Not a win for a change. This is a question in the SMM group
Curveball.
that came from Kate. So it's just to show that like it's not, you know, all sunshine and rainbows
Yeah.
all the time. Some people are asking genuine questions that they want help with. So this is a really nice example that covers on the posture. So I feel like I've hit a plateau with the work on fixing rounded shoulders, even though there's still some pain in the injured shoulder. The range of motion is better than in years, though not 100% yet. Majority of exercises are pain-free now. I can only feel pain when stepping through a door with my hands on the door frame. So whenever you're going into like a stretched out pec position.
Oh, I was trying to figure that.
Yeah.
Right, I got you now.
But on the other hand, I can actually do it. And I couldn't before.
There we go.
Yet the shoulders are still rounded. I think I'm missing something. I'm working on the pelvic tilt and the shoulder with physio. Next appointment is on the 5th. I think I maybe majorly lack strength in the shoulder blade retraction. I probably don't do enough and not enough intensity. Thoughts. So a few things to like unpack there with, again, this isn't at Kate, like it's a great question. It's what people can get focused on with that. So
Sure.
if we look at that and read that, it's like majority of exercise are pain-free now. Awesome. It's like I only feel pain when stepping through a door with the hands on the door frame, but I can actually do it.
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And the range of motion is better than years. So they're all like really positive things. But
'Cause
some
the
people
temptation is to like is to just I'm only able to do that, or I'm just able to do that, and you diminish what's actually a
Yeah.
phenomenal position.
and
to
you
be
can get so attached to it. My shoulders are still rounded,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
like, yes, but they're working better now.
in. Yeah.
So it's like, yes, sure, by all means, we want to, she's spot on with the money, like adding more.
Mhm.
She's not doing enough intensity with pulling exercises, definitely.
Sweet.
So we can add more of that stuff in.
Yep.
That will start to help to get the shoulders to change
Mhm.
where they're resting. But there's so many positives there. And
Yep.
a lot of us forget that. I think that they're so focused on it. It still looks the same. It's like, yeah, but you can do like 60% more things than what you
Yeah.
could 2 months ago. That's fantastic. So
Totally.
always remember that it doesn't mean just because you don't see a visible change in your posture, your resting posture,
Yep.
doesn't mean things aren't working. If you're able to do things you weren't before, that's a big win. And
Totally.
like still think in that terms of like, where could it be next year then? You
Yeah.
know, what if you add another 60% and that 60%? That's 120%.
That's a lot of percents.
That's a lot of percent. Like this podcast is 100% finished. Oh.
Bye.
Wow, that was incredible. I enjoyed that podcast, and I hope you did too. If you'd like to find out more, head over to tommorrison.uk.